In the year 120 AD, the edges of the Roman Empire brushed against the wild, mysterious lands of Caledonia, a place feared for its unforgiving terrain and untamable tribes. For Rome, no frontier was too remote, no enemy too savage. The Ninth Legion, Legio IX Hispana, had conquered countless foes and subdued vast lands in the name of the empire. Led by their seasoned centurion, Titus Ursus, the Ninth Legion marched deeper into Caledonia, seeking to crush the rebellious Picts and bend the northern lands to Roman law. But Caledonia was no ordinary province. Legends among the locals spoke of ancient spirits that protected these woods, unseen, wrathful forces that punished any who dared tread too deeply. To the Romans, these stories were nothing more than superstition. Yet, as the Ninth Legion pushed into the mist-laden forest, they sensed an eerie watchfulness among the towering trees. Unbeknownst to them, they were stepping into a trap set by something far older and far deadlier than any enemy they had ever faced. The Ninth Legion, numbering over 5,000 men, had entered Caledonia as an unstoppable force, a legion with a legacy of victories from Hispania to Britannia. Led by Titus Ursus, the primus pilus, these hardened warriors believed they had seen every terror and endured every horror that the barbarian lands could throw at them. Yet, as they pressed further into the Caledonian Forest, confidence turned to uncertainty. Shadows lengthened and twisted into unfamiliar shapes, and an unspoken fear settled over the ranks as they ventured deeper into the wilderness. The air grew thick, weighed down by a sinister quiet. This silence was different from the moments before battle. When tension simmered just beneath the surface, it felt alive, as though the forest itself was watching them. Many of the younger soldiers whispered of spirits and demons, stories they'd laughed off before, now murmured in earnest under their breath. Titus ordered silence, but even he could not ignore the discomfort gnawing at him. This was more than mere superstition. As night fell, the legion set up camp, their fires casting flickering shadows that seemed to dance with unseen entities. The dense fog began rolling in, a cold, suffocating mist that swallowed the light and dampened their voices. The wind carried a strange, mournful howl, echoing from all directions. Titus attempted to steel his men, but a feeling of dread gnawed at his resolve. Then came the first sign of death. A lone scout, sent ahead to survey the path, staggered back into camp. His face was a mask of terror, his eyes wide and glassy. Blood soaked his armor, and he collapsed before managing a single word. "Demon," he gasped, voice cracking, before his life slipped away. Soldiers exchanged fearful glances, clutching their swords tighter, their breaths heavy with anticipation. Titus immediately called his officers, ordering the men to form a defensive perimeter. He dispatched a few experienced soldiers to investigate but warned them to stay within sight. The men marched cautiously into the fog, spears raised and shields at the ready. Their footsteps echoed eerily, swallowed up by the mist. Moments later, the camp was pierced by the screams, desperate, agonizing cries that rose then fell into silence. The legion scrambled into formation, readying themselves for an attack. But there was no enemy in sight. The silence that followed was somehow even more terrifying than the screams had been, a deadening stillness that suffocated any hint of hope. Titus moved forward, calling out into the dark, but no reply came. As he turned to address his soldiers, the fog parted just enough to reveal a gruesome sight. One of his men, impaled on a branch high above the ground, his body twisted at an unnatural angle. Blood dripped from his limp arms, soaking the mossy earth below. The soldiers were frozen, their eyes glued to the macabre display above. From somewhere beyond the veil of fog came a deep, guttural growl, like the rumble of thunder. The legionnaires braced themselves, gripping their shields tighter. Then, in a flash, the demon appeared, a massive figure, partially cloaked in an eerie, shimmering armor that allowed it to blend seamlessly with the shadows. Its dreadlocked mane swayed as it tilted its head, observing the soldiers with a predatory focus. The eyes glowed with an unnatural light, fixed on its prey with an intelligence that chilled them to their cores. Before anyone could react, it struck. A projectile hissed through the air, impaling a soldier's chest and pinning him to a tree. blood sprayed, and the man's scream was cut short as the life drained from him. Panic rippled through the ranks as the men scrambled to form lines, shields raised and swords at the ready. Titus ordered them to hold their ground, but he could see the fear in their eyes. This was unlike any battle they had faced before. Their enemy moved like a phantom, too quick to track, too silent to anticipate. The creature's attacks were brutal and precise, each strike designed to inflict maximum terror. It seemed to toy with them, moving through the fog with an eerie ease, vanishing and reappearing, as if the mist itself was its ally. The legionnaires' swords slashed through empty air, their spears useless against the predator's otherworldly armor. Shields, which had withstood countless blows from barbarian axes, now cracked and splintered under the force of the creature's attacks. Titus tried to rally his men, calling for them to form a tighter defensive line, but each formation crumbled as the predator broke through, leaving mutilated bodies in its wake. Blood soaked the earth, filling the air with a metallic tang that mingled with the damp smell of moss and rotting wood. The legion was being systematically hunted, reduced to scattered groups fighting desperately against an enemy they couldn't even see clearly. The creature took trophies from its kills, marking the trees with the blood and remnants of the fallen. Severed heads were impaled on branches, torsos strung from vines, forming grotesque ornaments amidst the forest. It was as if the beast was mocking them, displaying its dominance over Rome's finest warriors. Soldiers fell into despair, their minds fraying under the relentless onslaught. Men once hardened by battle wept openly, dropping their weapons as they stumbled through the fog, hoping against hope for a way out of the nightmare. As the night wore on, the predator's assault became even more vicious. In the dwindling torchlight, Titus saw it once more, a towering figure silhouetted against the trees, armored in strange metal, its alien face etched with an expression of primal satisfaction. Titus felt a surge of rage and grief. His brothers in arms, men he had fought alongside for years, were being slaughtered like animals. With a shout, he raised his sword, charging toward the demon with the remnants of his strength. "Face me, beast," he roared, his voice echoing through the darkness. The predator paused, as if acknowledging his challenge. For an instant, Titus saw a flicker of recognition in its eyes, a dark respect, perhaps, for a warrior unbroken in the face of death. The creature lowered its head slightly, a gesture that seemed almost ritualistic. Then, with a blur of movement, it lunged. Titus swung his sword, but the predator dodged with ease, moving faster than any human could react. Its weapon, a serrated blade, unlike any steel forged by Roman hands, cut through Titus's armor, slicing deep into his flesh. He staggered, blood pooling at his feet, but refused to fall. With a final defiant shout, he raised his sword again, ready to die fighting. But the predator struck once more, this time delivering a swift, fatal blow. As he crumpled to the ground, Titus felt the life slipping away, his vision blurring as the forest swallowed him. The last sounds he heard were the distant cries of his men, fading into the darkness as the predator completed its deadly work. By dawn, the 9th Legion was no more. Scattered bodies lay across the forest floor, the blood of Rome's finest seeping into Caledonia's ancient earth. A silence fell over the battleground as the fog lifted, revealing the aftermath of the massacre. The Caledonian Forest had claimed another legend, its shadows thick with secrets that would remain forever untold. Months later, remnants of the 9th Legion's belongings were found by local tribes, a testament to the fate that had befallen them. A single scrap of papyrus, stained and torn, was recovered, Titus Ursus's final words. The message, hastily scrawled and filled with dread, was brought to Rome, where it was read by Emperor Hadrian himself. The emperor saw within it a chilling warning, one that shook even the might of Rome. 2 years later, Emperor Hadrian ordered the construction of a vast wall along the northern frontier of Britannia, a boundary to mark the end of Roman expansion and to keep the mysterious wilderness of Caledonia at bay. Known as Hadrian's Wall, it stood as a final testament to Rome's retreat, an acknowledgement of the dangers lurking beyond civilization's edge. The story of Legio 9 Last Stand became a haunting legend, a whispered tale among soldiers and citizens alike, a reminder of the ancient forces that lay hidden in the forgotten corners of the world, where even the might of Rome could not prevail.